What was your first impression?
Is this guy gonna survive? You know, out here with all these Division I athletes, because he showed up. He's a small guy, unassuming, doesn't look like a football player. But the moment he took off running and you saw him catch the ball and just his knack for the game, you knew that he'd have a chance to compete.
How often does he drop balls in practice? Do you ever drop anything?
Actually, I think he dropped the first one the other day, and I had to get on him. I said, Hunter, I'm not used to having to yell at you for dropping a ball, but he doesn't drop many, and I think that's why he's so successful is because he practices the right way. You know, he takes every practice like it's a game, and that's why he's able to perform.
What is it about him that makes him able to perform and to be able to produce at that high level against a good team?
You know, I think it just goes back to who he is at his core, his belief system. Very, very confident, very, very humble. He understands that it's a privilege to be out there. So every day when he comes to practice, he treats it like it's a privilege. His attention to detail is unbelievable. He's got a coach's mind. Grew up in a coaching household. He understands what it takes to be successful, and that's why he's able to compete.
Alabama's had a ton of injuries on defense. When you've watched them maybe from the beginning of the season, how have you seen them adapt given all the injuries they've had?
I know they keep saying there's a lot of injuries, but they just keep rolling guys in there. I swear they got about 25 defensive linemen. Every time you're watching film, you see a different one. And literally in our staff meetings, as we're watching films, like, who's 24? Who's 4? Who's 90? Who's 92? And they just keep rolling them in there. But you've seen that they stay within their system. They ask those guys to be ready to perform. You know, I think the biggest area of concern, if I was them, would be their linebacker position. I think they're going to get a lot of those D linemen back. Some of them ends are going to be back. But really the linebacker position is the one that probably gives them the biggest issue just because they ask those guys to do so much. But when 30 was in there, you saw him come back from his foot injury late in the season versus Auburn, playing at a high level. Obviously 42's played a lot of football for him early in the season. And then, you know, I think one of their best players, you know, on defense is 32. The way that he runs around. So you know, I anticipate that with the time off, they're going to have an opportunity to get those guys healthy. And really haven't seen them go away from what they do. They just keep plugging guys in and ask those young guys to step up. It's incredible to watch him because he does so much. I mean, he can go out there and play corner, lock you down. He can lock your slot down. He rushes the passer. If they need him to go back and play off the hash, he can do it all. And you can tell that he's like a quarterback out there. He gets those guys in the secondary where they need to be. Plays with a motor, and you can just see that everyone feeds off of his confidence. You know, going into it, we knew athletically that he had everything that he needed. We just didn't know how he was going to perform when the lights came on. And right out the gate, just to see how he came out versus Kent State and throwing the ball where he needed to throw it, making the decisions, and he just continued to progress. And the biggest thing I think is when there was a little bit of a lull and we weren't hitting the deep balls down the field, he never lost confidence. He kept throwing the ball, and that's just a sign of maturity that he trusts the process, he trusts his ability, and he understands that you're going to have to work through some low times to get back to performing at a high level.
What did you make of when some people were questioning the basketball season because of having to replace Deshaun?
You know, it's next man up is the mentality, and we've been working for a long time as a program to get to that point. And we challenge everybody, whether they're a starter or they're a backup going into it. You have to prepare as if you're a starter because you're one snap away from being the guy that the team is counting on. And so Kelly had a great mentor in Deshaun. He saw it every single day, you know, what it looks like to prepare, what it looks like to go out, your practice habits, your demeanor, how you handle the media. So he had a perfect example in front of him. And he was a young person that he took advantage of that. You know, a lot of guys, when they're in a backup role, they're just sitting there waiting their time, kind of twiddling their thumbs. But he took advantage of it. He prepared every single day, and when he got his opportunity, he performed. So I think just having Deshaun there every single day showed him what a pro. And I said it before, Deshaun prepared like a pro, and I think that's what Kelly's been able to adapt and learn throughout the season, how you prepare like a pro.
But was there ever doubt that, you know, through spring practice and the summer that he would be your guy? Was that ever a question out here in your mind or the coach's radar?
You know, never a question, because I think, you know, right out the gate when we started, we had great chemistry, great cohesion, and you could tell that he'd been working in the offseason with the guys, and so the team was very, very confident in his ability. You know, the biggest thing I say question would be and concern is just we've never seen him do it. under the lights. When you're talking about we're getting ready to go on the road to Louisville, we're going to have to go to Virginia Tech, play in those environments. He's never been the guy that's ran out there first. So that was the only concern. Physically and mentally, we knew that he was prepared and ready. He had waited his turn. He had really brought the guys together, and we were excited about what we had offensively because there was a lot of questions with all the guys that walked away. But we saw that the guys rallied towards him. He's got a great demeanor about himself. The guys really feed off of him, and now we just need to see him do it.
Those stages, the road games against Clemson, compare to what he'll see on Monday, or do you have the curiosity of how to handle this particular?
I think when you're playing Florida State in Clemson, that's a big game. When you're on the road at Lane Stadium at night, it's college game day. It's the biggest game in a long time. They got all their former greats that they're honoring there. You go to Louisville, and actually, if you look back to when Deshaun was a young guy, Deshaun didn't play quite as good at Louisville. And I think his third game of the season where Kelly goes up there and he leads us to one of the biggest victories we've had on the road in our conference. So I think that he's going to be ready for the moment. And what you're learning about Kelly is there's never a moment that's too big for him. And I think that's something that he learned from Deshaun too. Is just once the smoke clears and you run on the field, it's just football.
Are they seeing a defense character-wise or personality-wise? Do you see similarities?
Say that again.
Do you see similarities in terms of how they handle things and personality?
No question, and I think it stems from both of their backgrounds. Obviously, everybody knows Deshaun's background, his humble upbringing, and I think Kelly has a similar story. Obviously, family structure might be a little bit different, but he overcame some adversity when he was in high school, some serious adversity that potentially took the game away from him. And so I think when he was able to overcome that, it put the game in perspective for him. And like I said on Renfro, he treats it like it's a privilege. And so I think that's what you see out of Deshaun and Kelly. That gives him that calm demeanor to never panic. No, I have not.
What's the challenge in game planning?
Well, he's just he's an unbelievable athlete to be 6'7", 300+ pounds. His change of direction and his length. The biggest thing for him is just the challenge of handling that length, and he's got the versatility to go inside, so he can play 3 technique, then he can line up at defensive end, and so when he's at end, obviously he has the length that he can use to his advantage. When he's inside, he also has that speed and that quickness to create an advantage on your centers and your guards. So he's just a lot like Allen. Who was it? Jonathan Allen from last year, a lot like him in his versatility, but he's bigger and he's a lot longer than Allen was.
A lot of teams facing Alabama just don't even try to run. It's like they just concede that they can't do that. How important is it for you guys to be able to say this is a big part of what we do? We're gonna find out?
No question. I think you got to run the ball effectively. You haven't seen anybody just come right out of Alabama, knock them off the ball, and get 4 and 5 yards a clip. Obviously, you got to have ways within your scheme to generate some running game, but you got to stay committed to it. Keep them honest. Obviously, you don't want to get in a situation where it's passing every down, because then again they got some packages where they can bring some speed guys on the field and really create some havoc. So I think you got to keep them honest, keep them in their base personnel by trying to effectively run the football. He's very, very versatile, and again, he can play every position in the secondary. And so, obviously, they've had an injury at safety. Not sure how they're gonna use him. Are they gonna play him on the hash? Or are they gonna play him down in the over your slot receiver? So there's a little bit of unknown in terms of how they're gonna use him in this game plan. But he's a guy that can blitz the passer. They use him a lot more this year, coming off the edge, rushing the passer. He's become a guy that's more effective in the run game, as a run stopper as well. And then he can go out there in their man situations. And then also in some of their third down packages, he can roam around in the middle of the box. So you can see he's very, very intelligent. So you got to know where he is, because he's either going to be on your best receiver in man coverage, or he's going to be forcing the run, or he's going to be in that box as a spy guy for your quarterback run. Right. I don't think his natural ability gets talked about enough. I mean, you look at him, he's as quick a guy as we have, on the field. Maybe not as fast as some of the other receivers in Dion and T. Higgins, but he's very, very quick, and it's the way that he goes about his business. He's a master of his craft, and I think that's something that's being lost with young people nowadays, because they watch the pro guys, and the pro guys are very, very talented, and they can get away with not having good technique. They can false step in their routes. Their break points don't have to be perfect, but Hunter is a master of his craft, so he understands leverage, influence, break point, setting up defenders. He reads coverage as well, so he's just a master of his craft, and I think that's why he's able to compete when guys may be a little bit more talented than him.
What was the matchup like